Medical Mariner Inc.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live from our Norfolk studio, home of the Atlantic Fleet, Medical Mariner Inc.
Hello and welcome to Medical Mariner Inc. I'm your host, Paul Stewart. This podcast is going to cover my journey in life, some things I have learned. We will talk about medicine, about PA school, about changing careers, about tattoos and scuba diving, technical diving. Might even talk about skydiving in there, growing things, resilient living, training, anything else that comes to mind. I will attempt to get some folks on here now and then to talk about things with us, and we'll see where this journey goes. Thanks for listening. And now here's today's episode. Welcome to today's episode of Medical Mariner Inc. I'm Paul, as you guys know by now, and we have two new PAs with us. We have Lilly McGonegal. Wave, Lilly, say hi.
Hello.
And we have Sophie Newhouse. These young ladies were students of mine that I precepted in the ER back in the day. So I just wanted to get their perspective on what's going on and what things are doing. So I'm going to start with Sophie. And the reason I'm going to start with Sophie, Lilly, is she's the only student I had that was able to get an intrathecal block on a finger right on the first try.
Still,
So let's be clear. Not that it's a competition, but
it's my only shining moment. I still talk about it to this day.
There you go.
radio artery then.
So Sophie, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're doing.
Okay. So I am living in Washington, D.C., and I am working at a office in Rockville. Is family medicine, internal medicine, primary care office, Monday through Friday, regular hours. I just started in March, so this is my first month of work. Yeah.
Awesome. And then we have Lilly McGonegal. What the heck are you up to, Lilly?
So I am living and working in Southern Oregon. I moved here in mid-January and started work at the end of January. I work for Southern Oregon Neurosurgery as a surgical PA with their practice, and we operate at 2 hospitals and the surgery center in the area. Unlike Sophie, do not have normal Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, 9 to 5 hours. I work, yes, Monday through Friday. I usually round in the morning or will round when I'm fully credentialed in the morning before clinic. And then on non-surgery days, clinic is like 9 to 4. Surgery days either are like full days or we have half days in the OR, or depending on what add-on cases get added on from call, because I also take call. And that we have 5 surgeons, so we're on a Q5 schedule. And so it's either Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or then Friday through Sunday weekend call.
What time does rounding usually start for you guys?
Clinic starts at 9, so it really just depends on the number of patients, but usually around like 7:30.
Man, you guys have it easy. I used to have to come in at least at 5 for rounding.
God, no.
That's why I don't do surgery stuff anymore. That's crazy. Whoever wants to go first, what made you decide on your specialty that you went into?
I can go first. So I decided to do primary care first, mainly because I wanted to learn how to treat a lot of different fields. I'm not a person, I guess, that was set on one field. I have an interest in kind of a variety. And so I was mainly focusing on trying to get something that would give me the most experience in everything, figure out exactly what I could see myself doing after this as my next specialty maybe, and narrowing down what I like. And also just because when I was doing the job search hunt, a lot of it was like urgent care or primary care mainly. So I applied to different fields, but mainly primary care because it was the most options, and that's what I got the most interviews in, and that's where I ended up finding a job. Yeah.
How about you, Lilly?
Prior to PA school, I thought I was going to go into pediatric neurology. I've always loved peds. My background was in pediatrics, and then I did undergraduate research in neuroscience, so I was kind of fascinated by the combination of the two. That's what I did my elective in. Still something I love and would love to do, but I was told right before PA school started that I was going to get into an OR and I was never going to want to leave. And I didn't believe people, but then I got into an OR and I never wanted to leave. So I kind of took the best of both worlds. We don't have peds, unfortunately, at our practice or in this area. They send them up to the university, but kind of took the best of both worlds and get to do neurosurgery because the brain is fascinating. And so since I had a little bit of a background in understanding some of that, and then also wanted to get to assist in the OR, looked for neurosurgery jobs, and didn't really realize the difference in being a surgical PA at a like big university level one trauma center where residents are versus practices where there aren't residents. But have found that since we don't have residents, I get to be first assist in the OR, which is super awesome, dream come true. So very happy.
There you go.
And I wasn't picky on where I wanted to be, so kind of just cast a super wide net on where I was applying and ended up in a really cool place.
So you brought up an interesting point for folks who might be thinking about being new PAs. So you cast a super wide net on location. How about you, Sophie?
I was the exact opposite because I have a significant other who is in the military and is stationed in one location. Obviously, I was looking for jobs in an area where he was, which was limited to the DC, Northern Virginia, Maryland area. So I had to only look for jobs here, obviously, and it definitely narrowed my search if I wanted to do some special field like Lilly's. It would have been a lot harder for me to start there. As a new PA.
And I noticed, interestingly, neither one of you went into emergency medicine. That almost breaks my heart.
Not for lack of trying. I'm in a trauma type specialty still. There's still.
I'll be honest. I love a normal schedule of regular hours.
Hate the clinic. Hate the.
I love the regular regimented thing. So sorry.
Well, I'm actually gonna have something fairly regular and regimented. I'm just gonna have to go do it out of the country.
I didn't have that luxury.
What do you guys find well, first off, do you guys have massive student loan balances coming out of PA school?
Yes.
That's all right.
We don't talk about that yet. We have a few months.
I actually haven't had to look at them for a little bit, so it's just not. I don't know about it, and it's not my business.
Okay, well, mine's down to $138,000.
Oh Lord.
But I did refinance mine to private loans.
That is a huge daunting task they don't talk about enough, I feel like, when you get out of school and how much you're going to be paying on loans exactly. Like when I was thinking about salary and stuff like that, I knew the basics based on charting or like charts they would share from national organizations about what you should be making or expecting based on state, specialty, and years of experience. So that was very helpful. But then they don't talk about the expenses and the student loans and all of that all your money goes to, basically.
It can. I'm finding my student loan payments right about 10% of a normal ER income. Mm-hmm. So you have that to look forward to. Did either one of you guys get into a gig that has student loan repayment options?
No. Looking back, I would do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I applied to the National Health Service Corps. I looked into like military service. I looked into nonprofits, just like some of the different avenues for that. And none of them were either a good fit on either end or just like didn't work out. But and then since I work for a private practice, even though we practice at a hospital that's technically a nonprofit, they don't correlate.
Yeah. So I had one offer at a PA school for a group that was going to do student loans, but it was in Bangor, Maine, and that's just too cold.
Yeah, I'm from Maine. I would agree. Not going there.
I was telling Sophie before you got on that I've been going up and working in a critical access hospital sometimes in Wisconsin, and that place is crazy. But everybody's really nice up there, I think. That's something everybody who's thinking about PA stuff should at least at some point consider doing some type of work in a critical access hospital because it really helps out the community. Everybody's so much nicer there. What do you guys think's the coolest thing you've got to do so far as a new PA?
Sorry, that's my boss.
That might be your coolest thing right now.
Allegedly around one. So
she has one on the West Coast, one
on the West Coast.
Okay.
Coolest thing, obviously, like I said, I'm not credentialed yet, so I haven't been able to scrub in officially into surgery, but I've observed a lot of surgeries and seeing a craniotomy in real life and like seeing a brain. That was really, really cool.
Was it like one of the ones where they drill a little hole in, or did
Not
they
the
actually?
burr holes. I've seen burr holes too, but no, this was more like taking a bigger chunk of the brain and like having an even bigger piece out for a bit while they remove the clotted. It's been a lot of like subdural hematomas that are like chronic, or like brain masses for tumor resection.
How do they do the brain mass tumor resection? I've never
Yeah,
figured
that's a
out
great
how one.
question.
Yeah, I've never figured out how one does that without totally screwing somebody up.
I'm still figuring out some of it. The pathophysiology doesn't always make sense to me.
That's okay.
But from the practical standpoint in the OR, we use something called Stealth, which is a Medtronic thing. And basically what they do is they take the patient CT and they take these eyes in this machine and basically make like a 3D map of the brain. And then while you take the piece and put it on the brain, and it tells you like the angle and the depth at which you need to go in. We use it for back like spinal fusions as well. Yeah, and then they just go in and take out as much as they can. I think I from what I understand, I think that the like depending on the type of mass, I think that it like grows around the brain tissue. So it creates a mass effect, but it doesn't actually grow in the tissue versus like when there's a bleed and it like necroses the actual brain
Mm-hmm.
tissue. And so as long as you don't actually cause damage to the area that you're in, this is all me speculating because I still have to figure out the
There you go.
pathophysiology,
That's
some
fine.
of it. It depends. Obviously, if you're in a motor space or a sensory space, like you have to be really careful, and you may cause that damage. But there's a reason that my surgeon did 7 years of residency, and I did not.
What's the coolest thing you've gotten to do, Soph?
I would say, so by like my second week, I had my own schedule. Obviously, I was going over all the patients with my supervising physician at the end of the day, but I was kind of thrown into the fire, started seeing patients on my own almost immediately, I would say.
How did you
And
like that?
that was not what I expected and would not recommend. So just be extra careful is my advice when you're interviewing, because when I talked to him, he had this whole plan when I interviewed about onboarding, and he had a bunch of PAs and NPs that some of them were new and young. Like I think it was their first job, so it wasn't his first time. And I don't think he did exactly what he said he was going to do. Like I shadowed for 3 days, maybe. I don't know if he just has a lot of trust in me and my knowledge, but obviously I haven't felt necessarily alone because we went over every patient together for the last few weeks. And now I just go to him if I have specific questions, which I do have a lot of questions, obviously, all the time still, but we don't go over everything in detail as much anymore. So it was a fast, quick onboarding process, and I still don't know what I'm doing most of the time. But
Have you gotten any diabetics to get better?
I was about to say, this is my cool thing, okay? And it is about diabetes, all right? Okay, so it was a new patient, just started me and him together. I love the new patients because we're starting from scratch. I get to know all of them and their history, and like the next time I see them, they're my patient now, right? Instead of just taking someone's follow-up. And so he was in his 30s, complaining of excessive thirst and urination at night. Okay, those were his two big things.
Be pondered.
So obviously I did some testing, more than just the A1C, but that's what I did first, obviously. And it came back at 10.6. So it's not terrible, but I saw him the next week, and we had to start him on medication, insulin, all the things, a lot of patient education. Luckily he has a family history of diabetes, so he kind of knows what to expect at least. And so I haven't seen him back yet since then, but he has messaged me in the portal about insulin and stuff because he's had problems getting needles, all these things that comes with insurance and all of that. So it's been a whole thing that I had to deal with too. And I think I see him back soon, and we'll get to see how he's doing and what his blood sugars are and all of that. But it was cool to be like, I think you have diabetes, and he did.
There you go. Yeah, diabetes is pretty cool. It's when you get into that autoimmune stuff that it starts getting weird.
Definitely, which they have a lot of too. And I'm like, yeah, not sure.
I'll tell you guys about one of the weird things I'm doing lately. So I've got a new, one of the 3-ish jobs I have at the moment. They're all going to go away when I go out of the country. It's at an urgent care, a local urgent care, and I got hired by them. And they're like, "Oh, we're getting bought by this other urgent care company. No big deal." And they're like, "Yeah, you'll just once we get taken over by them." Well, in the time that I interviewed with them till my shoulder healed enough, I don't think we talked about it, but I had the shoulder injury where it got dislocated and had. So now everybody knows. Then not only had they been bought by that other company, but that other company sold them to a local hospital chain, not HCA. And it has been super interesting because it's like there's been no planning at all in this. They threw together an EMR at the last minute. Turns out we were supposed to be working 12-hour shifts, but they don't have enough people to staff it. So now we're doing Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And I'm PRN with them, so I work here and there. I'm like, this is going to be crazy for you guys in the long run. So what are you guys looking forward to most coming up, being PAs and all that?
Is it wrong to say having a salary?
You're going to have to speak up.
I said, is it wrong to say having a salary? Because that is a huge benefit of being a PA and not a student.
Absolutely true. Just got my first paycheck recently. And it was
And
amazing.
out on
Although
the
lower
injured
than I
reserve
thought.
list.
Yeah. Because taxes, way lower than I thought, but
Yep.
it's better than what it was, which was no income.
Yeah. I would say otherwise, though, I think just continuing to learn and develop my own practice. Because you do so much of like learning from other people and taking pieces that you like, and getting rid of the stuff you don't, or stuff that just doesn't work for you. So I think getting to actually start to do that now that I'm seeing patients on my own in clinic like Sophie's, and getting to do all of that and round and take consults and everything.
Yeah, I would say similarly, gaining confidence. I feel every day I get maybe a little bit more confident. And so continuing on that these next few months for sure, because it definitely is a lot, and imposter syndrome is so real. I feel it every day. And I'm looking forward to the day where I don't have to look something up, which will be like a year maybe.
No,
like where I can go a full day without looking something up, but that's obviously not happening now.
If you hit that day, you let me know, because I have not hit that day yet.
Well, that's reassuring. That's reassuring.
But that's one of the cool things about our job, though, is there's all this stuff. The CDC resources are getting a little challenging to get to now, but there's all this stuff you can do. But I just thought of a great question for Lilly. So now that you're doing neurosurgery, not neurology,
yes,
which of the head CT rules do you like best? Do you like the Nexus head CT rules? Do you like the Canadian head CT rules? Or do you like the New Orleans? Or have you not developed an opinion yet?
Haven't quite developed an opinion. Also, so far, I've been seeing a lot of follow-ups. So it's been already like, we're doing serial head CTs for monitoring.
Mm-hmm.
No, I haven't quite developed an opinion, but a lot of times it's like, scan their head.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what we do at the trauma center usually. And just for everybody who's not Sophie or Lilly or me, there's different sets of head CT rules. And early on in emergency medicine, I had a doctor point out to me because we were doing something. And he's like, well, do you want to get a head CT on that guy or not? And I'm like, I think he's going to be fine. He's like, okay, well, use the Canadian head CT rules. Don't use the Nexus or I forget which way. Because he's like, if you do, you're going to get trapped into doing a CT if you use this one. But this other one, you'll be fine. And I'm like, okay, that makes no sense at all, but we'll go with it. So what advice would you have for anybody who's gone through all that? First, that's the other thing. Congratulations on getting out of PA school. What a pain in the ass that was.
Yeah, thank you.
But what advice do you have for somebody getting ready to get out of PA school and looking for a job?
One of my pieces of advice I would say is to think about, maybe, unless you know for sure you want to do a certain specialty, think about all of the other factors that go into finding a job, like, okay, the salary, the benefits, what kind of team is there, what are their values, what is the environment like, the hours, all of those things play a factor into how happy you'll be there, which was a huge factor in my decision because like I said, I could see a lot of different specialties that I like. I have a background in multiple different ones. So I was kind of focusing on who do I connect with, like what supervising physician do I connect with that I feel like I can learn from was my biggest number one factor when I did all my interviews was who is going to give me enough supervision that I need to be successful and to learn and to develop my skills as a PA so that at the next job, if we end up moving or whatever, I'll be set up for success and be more independent and have my own skills.
What's the likelihood you're going to have to move if you're
Well,
a military spouse?
Yeah, exactly. So highly likely. So I've had a huge emphasis on where can I grow to be the best I can be. What's going to set me up for later, basically.
Which service are you guys with?
He's in the Navy.
See, just join the Mayport Mafia, and then you can live down there in Mayport forever.
We're looking to do Florida next, actually.
Yeah. Get stationed in Mayport. People die there.
My best friend's in Mayport.
God.
So, yeah, if you get on board in Mayport, you can stay there your whole Navy career, it turns out.
Lord.
So, there you go. How about you, Lily? What's your handy advice?
I think some of it came from you, which is like your first job is not going to be your dream job. You're not, I was like, oh, I want all these things. And I got really lucky, I will say. Like, I have a very great salary. The team I work with is great. I'm in the field that I want to be in. I'm in a beautiful state, which was like all things I wanted. But when you're searching for your jobs, when you're going through the interview process, like, you would hope that they're being transparent about everything, but take everything that's told to you with a grain of salt. I didn't get to meet as many of the APPs that I'm working with during my interview, and there was some scheduling snafus, so like I'm not as surprised by that. But I would say that if you don't and you only get the story from the person recruiting you specifically, that there may be some things that they're working really hard to not share with you. So just try to feel out all the situations. If you have the opportunity and ability to be flexible, be flexible. And even if you don't, try to be flexible in the other areas and look into all the things like Sophie was saying, because if it's location that you have to have, then you may have to give up something else.
Yeah.
You make a really good point, though, that the first job is not going to be perfect by any means at all. So
I think we all know that at this point.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, I actually was interviewing right out of PA school. I don't know if I told you the story when we were working together in the ER or not, but I was looking at a hospitalist job at a Florida down in Southern Virginia. And I don't think they meant to, but they put me to shadow with the girl I would be replacing. And she was a very disgruntled employee. And so we'd be going through everything and she'd say, "Are you sure this is the job you want?" And I was absolutely sure it wasn't after that. But I thought that was interesting. So I guess that's one thing I throw out there. If you get the chance to, ask them, say, "Hey, am I replacing somebody? Is there a chance to talk to them?" Because there you go. Did you guys have anything you wanted to add? We've probably got enough material to make this happen. But if there's anything else you wanted to throw in, I think I missed.
Maybe I'll add something about the interview process itself, because I think I went on maybe 3 or 4 interviews and drastically different, most of them, like reasons why I wouldn't take one versus I would. For example, like the first one I went on, it was at I think a cardiology outpatient office, and I went there during the workday. She was very busy, came in for like 10 minutes, chatted with me, asked me questions, and then she showed me a procedure. They do sclerotherapy, stuff like that there. She showed me that and then was like, "Yeah, do you want to work here?" basically. And I was like,
"No.
You barely asked me anything." That was not a turn on for me. That would be a turn off to take that job for sure. Versus I did another interview it was a community health center, like a Monday through Thursday primary care, but community center. So they do a lot of different things there, kids, OBGYN, and family medicine, which would be ideal for me, right? To get all of these opportunities. And the interview process was very, very intense. Like, asked me a lot of questions, ethical questions. What would I do in this scenario? What would I do in that scenario? And I felt good about it. by the end of this part. And then the doctor who would be my supervising physician started taking me on a tour, and I was asking him, because I had in my brain, number one priority, I want to learn from someone. And he was basically like, yeah, I'm not going to hold your hand. You know, you're going to do this. He basically said that almost in those exact words. And I was like, this isn't going to work for me. And they were like, oh, we're hiring 5 different people. We're expanding. That's all great, but not for like a new grad who needs maybe more attention, who wants to learn. And I got a job offer, and I was like, no.
That sounds very similar to an experience I had in Safford, Arizona when I went up there.
I was like, that whole interview was great. I got really good vibes from this. It was the CFO, I think, and this doctor. And the CFO was awesome, asked me all these questions. I thought it went well. And then he starts giving me the tour, and was like, oh, we're hiring 5 people. I'm not going to hold your hand. Like, I'll show you some stuff, but, whatever, you're on your own, basically. And I was like, never mind.
Did you tell him I could do intrathecal plugs?
Yeah, I could do that here. Do they need that here? I can do it.
Yeah, I would say like during the process, just like have your non-negotiables that you know, and it's okay if you don't know them, but if there are things that you would feel uneasy about going into, like communicate that with the office and get what their true perspective is on it. Because mine too was like going into such a niche specialty with not a lot of experience during school in this, even though I know I'm super interested in it. I need a lot of guidance and teaching, and like I'm eager to learn, and like I'll go out of my way to do those things, but I need someone who's going to teach me and like wants to teach me and doesn't feel like I'm a burden. And just made that very clear to everyone I was interviewing with. Like, even if you just go on the interview for like a learning experience to figure out what you do want and you don't want, I think that that's okay. And yeah, if you get a vibe that's like, oh, they're not going to teach me, or they're going to be disgruntled about the fact that they have to teach me the whole time, and it's going to be a terrible relationship with my supervising physician, probably not an environment you want to work in, especially as a new grad. Like eventually, like if you're like, all right, I have my own practice, it's whatever, like this has everything else I'm looking for, fine. But not when you're trying to figure it out.
Just graduated, not sure what to do. You need supervision, good supervision.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. So, and sometimes if you're switching careers, that's the other thing I would add too, when you switch afterwards. That was one of my biggest challenges going from burn stuff to working in the ER was everybody was kind of like, yeah, you've been a PA for a couple of years now, man, have at.
Also a great point that I'm scared to witness one day, but.
So, yeah, just keep that in mind. Oh, and with the surgical first assist stuff, when I was talking to the folks about the position that I'm going to go to out of the country, one of the docs was flipping through my resume and goes, oh, you've been a surgical first assist. So if the trauma surgeon needs surgical first assist, you could help him out. And I'm like, I mean, I can, but remember, it's been like 3-4 years since I've been in an OR. So yeah, definitely set limits. Cool.
Yeah, be expressive about what you can and cannot feel, what you do and do not feel comfortable with is the best way I think to put it. Yeah.
Well, me and Sophie have some high quality weekend lounging to do, and I have to edit this down. And Lilly has to go save some guy's ability to move his legs.
Yes, so and urinate.
Yeah, we probably ought to sign off, but I really appreciate you guys coming on. This was really cool. And maybe we'll do a check-in in like a year so that we can
that would
see
be cool.
where things are. All right.
That would be cool.
Okay, I'm going to hit the stop button now. Thank you for listening to Medical Mariner, Inc. Medical Mariner, Inc. is written, produced, and hosted by me, Paul Stewart. If you wish to make suggestions for content, leave me some comments, or have anything you would like for me to know, you can email me at medicalmarinerinc@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. To support the show, please give me a 5-star rating on whatever platform you listen on, like, and subscribe to the show. Thanks, and I hope you have a good day.